Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Military Surplus Firearm Collecting. Today we're going to do another story time with Mike B session that's actually got some valid tips and advice for you. So you can sit through the story or you can, just be impatient and skip to the end and then not really understand what I'm talking about. So for those of you that want to listen to the story, we'll begin. It all begins in the summer of 2011, back when I was still in the Wisconsin Guard. We were down for our annual training at Fort McCoy in Wisconsin, for those of you that know where that shithole is. Anyway, so we were standing around, and there were some guys from other units there that we knew and stuff, and word got around that I was into military surplus firearms. So one of the guys approached me, and he's like, "Hey, I've got a French MAS 49, and I don't really want it anymore. Would you be interested in that?" And I was like, "Yeah, how much?" He's like, I think he said like $350 or $400 at that time, which was still a fantastic price even at that time. And I was like, hell yeah. And he's like, yeah, it comes with, a couple magazines and a sling and the bayonet and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, yeah. We'll figure out a time to meet. Well, fast forward about a little over a year of us trying to coordinate when to meet up, because he was from, I think, the southern part of the state, and then he was going to be up in the area. So he's like, yeah, hey, how about we'll just, exchange the cash this weekend at, so-and-so place. So we did. I saw this thing and I was like, oh my God, this thing's amazing. And it's still in great shape, even though I've shot the shit out of it. But yeah, it's just a solid MAS 4956 in the original 7.5 French. It's a great shooter. I actually have to make some more videos of this. I haven't shot this in a while. And it's a side note. So that's the beginning of the story, right? So I got possession of it, loved it. And I came on some hard times a couple years later. And I ended up having to cull a lot of my old collection, like my Hakim was one of them, and another Yugoslavian SKS, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, so I ended up selling this to a gun boards member who I had done business with before. And so he bought it. I sent him all the stuff. I was really sad to see it go. Well, about a year later, he fell on hard times. And so he had to sell basically his entire collection to somebody that I had just started talking to at that point, or for a couple of years, Alden from the Mosin Crate. So Alden bought this guy's collection out, and I said, oh, did you by chance get a MAS 4956? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, what's the serial on it? Just curious. I wanted to make sure it was the same one, and it definitely was. I'm like, dude, and I told him the story about how I got it. I waited over a year and all that stuff, like I just told you. And he's like, you know what, man? I'll just give it to you for what I paid for it, which was, I think, $50 more than I had originally paid for it. So Alden was awesome. And then we ended up meeting up in Pennsylvania, oddly enough, in like 2014. And so he brought it up there, and I paid him the cash. And I was just really grateful to have this rifle back in my collection. And I vowed that this will be one of the last guns that I ever sell if I ever hit hard times, because that's such a cool story. So I also shot it, since I had it back in the possession, and it's still amazing. I don't think the guy that bought it from me shot it, and Alden didn't shoot it. But so that was a really neat story about, the one that got away, and, kind of like the title of the video, comes around, goes around, and comes around again. So the moral of the story is Alden's also had experiences like this before, where he had sold something that he didn't want to. It was really hard to let it go, because he'd find great joy in a lot of these rifles and stuff. And it's, you get a connection to it, and it's like, damn it, but I have to do it because, if you're on hard times, especially in your early 20s, it's really a bitch of a time in your life. You're trying to figure everything out, and money's usually not abundant unless you're some, lottery millionaire. You come up with a startup company and you actually make it for a couple of years. You're probably not going to be making a shitload of cash in your early 20s. So I get that it really sucks when you have to let things go. However, the military surplus firearms community, being as kind of close-knit as well, not anymore. It was more close-knit and kind of lower numbers 10 years ago. And, even 5 years ago, it was a lot less people. But my point is, if you're patient enough to just wait like I did for that year before I actually got this thing, it all pays off, because this was definitely worth the wait the first time. It sucked to let it go, and then I was patient enough to just go, things improved financially, and then, everything just lined up. Like, I had started talking to Alden a few years before that, and, he was super nice. He didn't have to do that at all. He could have charged me, and made profit on it, but he didn't. And again, dude, I know you're watching this because you remember that story. That was such a crazy story. It was fun. But thanks again, dude. But anyway, so my other, I guess well, to drive the point home is if you're patient enough, a lot of times you can get things back, the exact weapon or whatever bayonet, whatever you sell, rather. You can even get a car back. You just be patient. Things will get better. It's not gone completely once you sold it. There's some other guns that I'll probably never see again, but I mean, that's also part of collecting, is getting new things. And this is like one of the coolest stories I have for any of my rifles in my collection, just a personal one, because it's like, went through all that and it's back and I'm not getting rid of it for any reason unless I'm losing my house or something. Like, no way. So this thing's here to stay. I'll definitely make more videos on it. This is one of the most underrated rifles, but I guess it's not underrated because these prices spike and you can't even find these anymore, hardly. They're fantastic, and I'm really happy to do that. So thanks again to the guy I got it from. I totally think I forgot it's... Oh, no, I didn't, but I don't want to say the name. And then Alden, thanks a lot again, dude. So, yeah, the moral of the story is be patient. What's lost is not necessarily lost forever in this hobby. So, and it's really fun to do this because, again, it's like I just hunted for something that I had hunted for back then, and it was just a cool story. Anyway, I'm repeating myself. I can't get over the fact that this happened. But Alden had the same thing happen. I think a couple times that he got his exact firearms back. He had to pay for them. Like, I didn't have to pay that much more for mine. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed this video, this is kind of I try to keep it, with story time, I try to keep it relevant to the collecting hobby. And this series is basically for, people who are beginning to collect, or, in their intermediate stages, or even advanced collectors. You guys have probably experienced something like this. If you have, throw it down in the comments. It's really kind of cool how that works with a community like this. So, if you like this video and you kind of learned something or whatever, or maybe you didn't, you just enjoyed watching it and looking at this awesome piece of firearm history, if you consider becoming a Patreon supporter, that is the best way to support my work, and it's the easiest for me and so far everyone else. So what that does is it allows me to be able to get props, or not props, but actually physical items like this, other videos. I do helmet ballistic tests. I want to get into body armor ballistic tests, which I think would be really fun. But I can only afford to fund this so much out of pocket to do all the videos that I want to do, because my mind is working faster than I guess my wallet can work and keep up with. But anyway, crowdfunding really helps with that. It's $1 a month. It's $5 a month or more. It gets into my Discord server, which I think is really fun. There's a lot of cool conversations and information being exchanged, which is really neat. So yeah, and it just, crowdfunding is always cool to get content going. It allows me to do things that I wouldn't otherwise be able to do funding out of pocket. So anyway, if you want to check that out, the link is in the description. If you can't do that, I totally get it. That's totally fine, and I just appreciate you watching. Let me know if you got any questions on anything that I need to clarify. I'm not an expert on this stuff at all. I'm just a collector that's been, doing this for a few years, about 15, 20 years. And I'm just trying to share experiences that I've had and little tips and, tools of the trade to kind of get you to not make as many mistakes as I did, and realize that there is hope, and that, you don't get discouraged if something like this happens where you have to get rid of something that you like. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Consider supporting the channel, and we'll see you on the next episode of Military Surplus Firearm Collecting.